Ladies and gentlemen, today is a good day to be a Battlefield fan. As of today, the patch that we have been promised for months has finally come out with massive changes to the game. I thought I'd hop in, take a quick look at some of the things that have changed from the patch notes, and get a recording of it to kind of let you guys know what I think and what it looks like. As you can see here, I'm just kind of going through the menus, try to take a look at what might have changed. I'm just kind of going through the menus, as you can see, and some of the features of the PS3 didn't quite make it through, such as being able to change your customized options between the RU and the US. But you can see some areas such as where the squads menus were a little different. You only get about 3 squads that show up naturally, and then you can create your own squads from there. You can also check the privacy of your squads. This is a very nice feature, as people have been asking for the ability to create squads for a long time. The map for the deployment is a lot different now. It's a lot cleaner, looks easier to find out where you're going. Like before, the outer edge of a control point will flash if it's being contested, and the inner circle will flash when that is the one you've selected. But it looks a lot clearer to me as far as being able to see where everything is. The icons, the art for the icons look a little better, like they've been given a little more detail. Alright, well, one thing I wanted to show off here while I was in this map, I didn't really get a chance to show off the big thing, was that some changes have been made to the Amtrak for the better. It was always a useful tool, but it has now been improved in effectiveness, and your quality of life in using this vehicle is much greater. Now your turret, when you're in the second position, will maintain your absolute position instead of your relative position. By this, I mean that if you're aiming in one direction and your driver decides to turn, before you would turn with the driver and you would lose your target. Now you should maintain your position and be able to continue to aim at your target. This mimics the behavior of other ground vehicles in Battlefield 3, such as the Top Guns on tanks. One nice feature that's been added as well is a third-person camera for the gunner that allows you to check around the Amtrak for anybody trying to sneak up on you. One feature that's been added to Battlefield 3 that's quite nice is the new mini-map. A lot of people have complained about the old map that doesn't give a lot of information or detail. As you can see, you have the basic map, a hybrid mode, and then a pure satellite view. I have a preference for the hybrid, as it kind of gives you a bit of the best of both worlds here. Basically, the old map view is just like before, where you kind of only see things in abstract terms, where roads are, where land masses are, water, etc. This can be kind of useful if you just want bare bones information and to be able to see enemy movements relative to you. Hybrid mode combines both the satellite view and the map mode, which can be nice to kind of see where natural barriers occur, as well as being able to see what the map in the game world actually looks like. Satellite mode is kind of just like what the old Battlefield games had, where you will see nothing but an overhead view of the map in your current location. You can cycle this by pressing the B button or by going into your options and changing your map options. One feature that's been updated in the game is the ability to swap your weapons out, quickly moving from your sidearm to your main weapon and back again. Now previously, it was much quicker to switch from your primary weapon to your sidearm than it was the other way around. This is still true. However, the values for both have been reduced. You can now switch quickly between the two, and your sidearm is much faster to deploy, allowing you to reach for it in emergency situations. Another thing that's changed is that the underslung grenade launcher is much faster to deploy now. It was not mentioned in the patch notes, but was mentioned by the managers at DICE, and I wanted to make sure that I could get proof that this was true. As you can see, it takes about 3 seconds or so to deploy the grenade launcher when it's not attached to the underslung. If you attach it, it takes roughly 1 second or a little less. So therefore, you can still use your grenade launcher with the rifle without the underslung attachment, but it's much faster in pinch situations or for CQC if you really need to get that out real fast to have it as part of your underslung attachment instead of using a different attachment. And what you're seeing here real fast is the new feature of being able to move from your prone position to a standing position very quickly. This is to help facilitate getting away from grenades or moving quickly out of cover when you need to. You can actually be prone on the ground and use your sprint button to very quickly get up and start running right away. A feature I'm going to find very useful. So a feature that I, as well as many Battlefield players, have been waiting for, as minor as this might be, we finally have horns in our Jeeps now. You can just press the space key, probably the left mouse button, I did not test that, to fire off your horn, and to let anybody know that you're around in the area. If you drive up behind somebody, give them a honk, let them know, hey, you can go ahead, get in my Jeep. It's something that's been done in Battlefield for ages now. Also, it's also very satisfying to honk at an enemy soldier just before you hit him to let him know his doom is coming. Another thing you'll see here in this quick clip is that the zoom options for weapons on things like Jeeps will retain itself now according to the settings that you set for your soldier. For example, I prefer a toggle mode. When I press my right mouse button, I like to be in my scope and stay in my scope until I press right mouse button again. I don't like to hold it down. Before, I could do that, but the Jeep would zoom out if I let go. I had to hold both buttons to zoom and shoot. Now I can just right click, maintain the zoom, and keep shooting. A very nice feature of the new patch is, of course, we have a new Camel Rose, which gives us new features, new abilities to call for support. Another thing that's also been added in conjunction with the new minimap is that when you make a request, such as ammo, it should show up on the minimap in a flashing icon, allowing teammates to find you quicker when you make a request for ammo, health, or the like. One feature I was trying to record that didn't get much success in is the new suppression system, just so you know what that's all about. When you're suppressed now, it hurts you a lot more. You will lose recoil, or you will gain recoil and you'll lose accuracy, and it really blurs you a lot more. Because the suppression is increased in this version of the game, they have also increased the resistance perk that you have for removing suppression. So maybe people might actually be using this more often than they were before. While I was out there in Wake Island, I thought I'd go ahead and take the opportunity to test out the flight physics now of the F-35, as they have promised that it should be a smoother experience. Honestly, it feels a little better to fly. When you go to decelerate in midair, you will no longer attempt to go into hover mode. What would happen prior to this patch would be your hover mode would attempt to kick in, but it would actually never truly kick in. It would slow your descent, but it would never actually give you vertical lift until you got closer to the ground. Now, the vertical lift will not engage until you get close to the ground and your landing gear deploys. What I also decided to try and test while I was in the air is the air-to-ground missile systems, as they have been listed as being improved. The range at which you can lock on with the air-to-ground missile has been increased, which makes it a lot easier to be able to target a tank or other ground vehicle while you're flying by and still fire. Also increased is, or in this case decreased, is the lock-on time to acquire the target with the air-to-ground missile. It no longer takes as long to acquire. It is especially noticeable if a target has been laser designated. One thing I would like to test in the future, as I've had many complaints about this, is the SOFLAM range. I always thought it was a bit long, and I'd like to see how long it can designate now. It may still be just as long, but honestly there's been so many changes that it's no longer a big issue. So I'd like to be able to see how long that will designate for, and then also what you might not see here because I didn't get any laser designated targets is that it's you can lock on a lot further than your natural ability would be for locking on if the target is laser designated. So if it's something far out there, it's been designated, you normally can't log on to it, well, your range for that has been increased. since I was in the air, I got a chance to also test the new parachuting mechanics here. It's actually a lot easier to move yourself in the air with the parachute. It responds a lot quicker to your movements for acceleration, deceleration, and turning. So it's a lot easier to hit the target that you want while you're falling down from the sky. One thing I unfortunately didn't get to show here is how tank battles have been changed. Apparently, tank versus tank is a lot smoother experience now, a lot tougher. It takes less shots now to kill a tank in the front armor with another tank. This is to help facilitate quick and decisive tank battles, as before an engineer could be hiding behind a tank and repairing it and keep you from killing it. Now, since it takes fewer shots, it's a lot easier to kill. Not only that, but engineer repair speeds have been reduced, so you should never run into those 10-minute tank fights where nobody dies. Also, armor hits to the side. If it's well done, preferably at a perfect 90-degree angle, you should be able to disable a tank in one shot. Again, this is only with another tank, as they haven't really made changes to infantry anti-tank devices except for the Javelin. The Javelin should be able to do a bit more damage to the sides and back of a tank without a lock-on designation. Other tank changes worthy of note are that the tank main shell will shoot down a helicopter or other aircraft in one hit. I was actually the victim of this and unfortunately did not get it recorded, but it was actually kind of fun to see that tanks actually have that defense against helicopters now. And the other change is that tanks or other ground vehicles in general, when disabled, can now reverse quicker. So because they are making the battles a little faster, they want to give you a way to get out of there. So now when you're disabled, you should be able to go into a reverse and hopefully escape the person that's chasing you down. So now comes the fun part. I personally am a pilot. I like to fly. I especially love to fly helicopters. One of the things I hate to fly is the Havoc. It is a flying pig. It would not turn, nor would it really elevate at the same speeds as the Viper. Well, that's all changed with this patch. I now can enjoy flying with either the US or the Russian vehicles and go out and be just as effective with either one. As you can kind of see in the footage here, I'm just kind of testing out the mobility of the Havoc. I do get into a position where I pretty much get my butt kicked, but honestly, it was just all in the name for testing. You move, honestly, just as quick as the Viper. I'm not sure if the Viper has been toned down a little bit. It didn't quite feel as responsive to me, but honestly, I think they're both in a really good spot. They're both decent vehicles. A lot of changes have happened through the air and ground game. What you can kind of see here in this footage is the rockets, and this is where I really started seeing a lot of changes in the Battlefield game in general. From sound effects, there are different sound effects. When I got hit, it sounded very different. The rocket pods themselves, when you see them being fired, they look different. They're far more accurate. But there's been a nice balancing act going on here. Before with helicopters, the bane of a helicopter's existence is the Javelin. A one-shot kill, which I can't verify if that's true anymore. Even if it is a one-shot kill, what they've done is they've made it so that flares can distract laser-designated missiles, such as the Javelin. Now, I know this isn't exactly realistic, but you have to keep in mind if the Javelin can one-shot the helicopter, they need to have some sort of defense against it. The benefit to using the SOFLAM with Javelin combination is that the SOFLAM typically has a much larger range. One thing that I did notice is that and it is documented, is that the range that a Stinger can lock onto is much lower now, and I actually have some footage of that, and I'll show it a bit later. Where Stingers cannot hold the entire airspace anymore. It used to be when flying, you would basically be constantly hit with a pinging lock-on tone. Constantly. If it wasn't a SOFLAM or a CITV station, it was a Stinger. And just because everything had such a long range, the SOFLAM specifically had a very long range. Now, the Stinger's range basically encompasses about the size of a flag cap radius. You really can't lock on much further anymore. The benefit of this, though, is that Stingers will lock on to you very quickly. It takes about 2 or 3 seconds. It really depends on if the enemy is using stealth or not. Now, the thing is that good pilots can still fend off a single Stinger user, simply because all they have to do is pop their flares and get out. So you still need to have a little bit of teamwork when you're trying to take down aircraft. 2 people with Stingers is optimal, simply because you will want one to make them pop their countermeasures and then the other one to hit them. Keep in mind that Stingers also are one-shot disables now. So if you do get that hit in, that helicopter or aircraft in general is kind of screwed. And again, I have footage of that as well, and I can kind of show it at the end. So it balances out in that way, and it does reinforce the teamwork a bit more. And again, the Javelins may still be one-shot kills, so you still have that option. But now Stingers are very, very useful in close range. I have seen, even though being a pilot, I love flying, and I've been defending the helicopters a lot, I have seen certain instances where certain pilots could get away with taking out the ground forces very easily, simply because before this patch, Stingers would not lock on quick enough. A helicopter pilot could basically maneuver himself in such a way that you could never get that lock on. Now they're at a much higher risk. And the thing is Stingers are now basically your anti-air deterrent. You may not kill that helicopter or aircraft, but you're going to make them think twice of getting in that area, because their countermeasures only come up about every 10 or 11 seconds, at least for the pilots. Flares in helicopters and jets are about 11 seconds. And if they deploy those countermeasures too early or whatever, they have to basically get out of there. They get locked on, they know that they're about to get locked on again, because that lock-on for that Stinger is just that fast. It's too fast for a helicopter pilot to just sit around in that area and wait for it to happen again. So lots of changes to the air-to-ground game. There have been some reports of bugs that the AA missiles from helicopters and jets are not properly hitting other air vehicles. I couldn't really tell you for sure. I didn't get to test that. But the theory is that they're supposed to be a lot easier to track down aircraft. Stingers will specifically hunt down jets a lot quicker. They won't blow up before they're supposed to. One thing I also wanted to show off is that the AA guns that are stationary in the ground now have air radar, so that the in-base AA guns can easily find aircraft that are trying to camp their airbase instead of having to wait for the sound or the visual confirmation. So all in all, I really like the patch. Haven't been able to get too deep into it. Haven't really played it seriously yet. I'm still working on Diablo 3 coverage for this channel. But honestly, I haven't been playing Battlefield for over a month now, I believe. Simply because I've been very unhappy with the way it's felt. I like the game still, but as a pilot, honestly, I was getting tired of constantly being pinged. I think it feels a lot better now on the few maps that I was able to, or few rounds I was able to fly here. When I was pinged, I knew I had to get out of there, and there was a very real time where I could stop being pinged, and I knew, okay, I have a rough idea where this person is trying to ping me from. I should probably avoid that area, or if I go into that area, I need to find that person fast, or they will possibly take me down. So I think there's a lot of good balances here. One thing that people will be looking forward to is that the MAV riding, where recons could ride their MAVs like an elevator. Well, it was fixed, but it's only fixed partially. There's still a way to do it, and it involves going prone on the object. But they have stated that this is exploiting. So if you are caught doing it on official DICE servers, you will be banned, and other admins have been encouraged to ban those that attempt to do this as well. Before, everybody could only speculate whether it was exploiting or not. Now we have official confirmation, so I would recommend against not doing it. It is officially stated that they do not like this practice. They are trying to get rid of it, so you want to be careful. They have mentioned that they may even go as far as clearing out stats for people found doing it. So all in all, I really like this patch. I think it took way too long to get to us, but I understand development cycles. I just kind of wish that they had a smaller patch-based system, kind of like other companies like Valve or Blizzard. But I understand when you're dealing with multi-console and things like that, that you don't always get to have it that way. Well, that's been kind of my analysis of the new patch 1.04 for Battlefield 3. I honestly, so far, like what I see. I'll know more as I play it. Obviously, this is only a small sample. I recommend going out, finding the patch notes, and reading them. I'll put a link down here, actually, from MP First, which is where I get all my notes, so you guys can see it. There's so many changes, it would take me hours probably to cover everything. Every weapon's been changed. This is almost like a whole new game. Weapons, effects, sounds, the gameplay itself, nothing is the same. We're pretty much going to be relearning this game from the ground up, and honestly, I think that makes it fresh again. I look forward to playing Battlefield again when I get a bit more time. Alright, thank you guys for watching. Hopefully this has been informative and that you like it, and if you haven't been interested in Battlefield 3 before, hey, maybe the footage has made you interested. Who knows? Anyway, thumb up the content if you like it. Leave comments, questions, and suggestions in the feedback section below.
Hostile jet spotted, over.